The road.
Thump, 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 thump. You really have to get that flat fixed.
The road to 100 continues right here with Sam Out, episode 95. Man, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And boy, when you see what we have lined up for you for episode 100, the same as every year, you are going to love it.
Unless you haven't checked out previous years, in which case, surprise.
Yeah, unless you haven't checked out, well, it's like 4 years of us giving our business at the end of the year. But yeah, man,
It's we're married men. We don't give these people the business.
well, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. Although I have heard in conjunction with today's topic, a uh, a referee in football give a player 15 yards for, and I quote, giving that player the business. And it remains one of my favorite sports reps clips of all time. Cinnamon Man, I am
That
one.
sounds very necessary roughness.
It does. I am one half of the Cinnamon Seed, and I'm joined as always by the big brained other half over there, Mr. Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, the swelling's gone down, so it's not so big as
Uh,
usual. But thanks for
uh,
bringing my medical history into this shit. Thanks.
this is what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. It has been um 2 of the weeks, unless somebody's gaslighting me into thinking that I hadn't put up an episode. 2 of the weeks since we have done an episode or so, since you've heard these voices.
Sir, gaslighting would be if I told you that
You just
while knowing that it was in order to screw with you. No. Let's be clear here.
okay.
Gaslighting, having been born out of the film Gaslight, in
Gaslight.
which this was happening. No, gaslighting is when I went to say yes before we started recording. We're talking about screwball comedies this episode just to see if I could fuck with you. And instead you sneezed, missed what I said, and it ruined the joke completely. That would have been gaslighting.
Thanks, Ola Factory, for ruining Doug's joke.
Yeah, I know, right? Rude. But me checking
Mhm.
and not seeing it,
Totally different.
waiting for you to get back from New York Comic-Con, and then being like, hey, I didn't see it when I checked. That's not gaslighting. That's going, hey, man, did you set it to private by accident?
Okay. Okay. So
That's not gaslighting. Don't, no. I will drive plenty of buses over myself. That was purely accidental, and I do apologize for it. I didn't mean to waste your time.
Not a
But how
problem.
was New York Comic Con?
New York Comic Con was interesting. It's times have changed since I was there 9 years ago. Let me put it that way. Not a lot of comics, whole lot of anime, which seems to be the big thing. It took about a good 33% of the whole show floor, man. But still got to meet and chit chat with some of my favorite comic creators, some of the best in the game that's doing. I got to talk with a couple of them about various things and ideas and things. Also, myself and my friend that accompanied me, we found the bar that we have been excitedly talking amongst each other about since we last were there 9 years ago, and then realized that we could not remember what the name of it was or where it
Oh,
was.
oh,
A chance left on a street, and we were like, "Holy shit, we found it! We found it!" And good times were had. So yeah, it's New York, man. Stayed in Jersey, hit the tunnel coming in, hit the show floor a couple days, and just soaked in that smelly nerd atmosphere.
that hasn't bathed in quite a while, and for some reason still won't. Really should if you don't want the con crud.
Right, exactly. The if your hotel is close enough, sir, I strongly suggest you go home and change, but you probably won't. That's it, man. That was New York. It's good times. What since our last chance encounter, sir, have you seen recently?
I've watched quite a few things. I'm gonna keep my list short and brief because the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards have begun. So I am disappointed that there was maybe 3 films total that I have seen that have been nominated. Whereas amusingly, one of those 3 films was premiered, I believe, at South by Southwest last year.
Hmm.
Was one of my favorite documentaries called 32 Sounds.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you're listening to this and you get the chance to check out 32 Sounds, absolutely do it. It's an immersive experience. If you see it somewhere, they usually give you headphones to watch the movie with. Otherwise, if you're doing it at home, find a way to hook up headphones so that you can do that, because it's a documentary about 32 sounds. I've talked about it on this show before. I've got a spoiler free review up on EOM if you want to check it out, but highly recommend it. And I was like, yay, yay, goody. It apparently got a wide release this year, and enough people checked it out that it got nominated. So I've been doing a lot of short films to get through those pretty quick, and then I'm going to be coming back around. Apparently, Eras got nominated, the Eras tour, but there's no screener for that. So I have no opinion on the movie that I haven't seen. But what I have seen that was nominated, and I recommend you, sir, check this out.
Hmm.
It's Errol Morris's new documentary, The Pigeon Tunnel. This documentary is it is your alley. You live
Interesting.
there. You sneak around in it. You hide in the shadows and you jump out at people in it. This is your thing.
That's
So
nice. Okay.
the documentary, and I'm probably gonna fuck this up in the pronunciation, but it's a interview between Errol Morris, the documentarian, and David Cornwell, who is the spy known in the literary world as John Le Carre.
John le Carre.
Yeah, it's about him, but the way that they tell the story, the way that it's shot, is very spy thrillery esque. So it's not, occasionally it's a Dutch angle here and there, or where the lens is capturing Mr. Cornwell from a distance through like this, almost through a doorway. We're hearing about some of his stories, both as growing up the son of a con man, being part of the service, and how some of those experiences clearly informed the stories, because the documentary will then intercut what he's talking about with scenes from adaptations of Taylor Tinker Soldier Spy, or The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, or any of the other adaptations. It's 92 minutes long. It's on Apple TV Plus. If spy films are your thing, this is one of the preeminent writers, and he's being interviewed. And it's one of those stories where all documentaries is a different genre within movie making. The idea that it is truth is itself fiction, because
Hmm.
every documentary comes at a story from a specific angle. And this one begins with the subject going, when you're doing an interview, it's a back and forth between the subject and the interviewer, where each of them are giving up something of themselves. So you're learning about Mr. Cornwell's life growing up, but how much of it is him telling you this fictional version of things? How much of it is actual truth? How much of it is just a version of a story he's told himself?
Hmm.
So it is a fascinating documentary. For you, Daryl, absolutely do I recommend this.
Crazy because the day before I went to Comic Con, I happened to stop by the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C.
That place is fucking cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
Crystal and I went to that when we lived there. Speaking of places you can't find, we went to a Chinese restaurant there with a buddy of ours who lived there for a while. It was this hole in the wall Chinese restaurant. Food was amazing. We never found it again.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Being part of that community for as long as I was, I really had no wish to go and check it out. But now
Mhm.
that I have been removed from said community for almost a decade now, I was like, all right, I'm close to the area. I'll go check it out. And yeah, it wasn't too damn shabby.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, what else you
Uh,
got?
an, Interestingly, another documentary. This one's streaming on Peacock. It's directed by. This is a first-time feature, if I'm remembering this correctly. Alex Perry. His subject is Kurt Angle, and I didn't know much about Kurt Angle. By the time I took a hiatus from the WWF for a while, and then in college I met someone, became friends with them, and they were big Stone Cold Steve Austin fans, so we would get together and watch. And I knew some of the performers. I didn't know others. Kurt Angle was this guy who was claiming to be this Olympic gold wrestler as part of his shtick. Had no idea he actually was one, and you know found out well before I graduated from undergrad. But this documentary, it's about just under 2 hours long. Again, it's streaming on Peacock. It's made in a way that makes you feel like it was not made originally for Peacock, but for television because of these strange fade to black moments that come at awkward times, and a little the mix is off. But you get a really interesting and really feel like the curtains pulled back a bit as we discover some really intimate things about Kurt, led by him, his family members. The first like 50-55 minutes is learning about him as a young man through winning the gold in the 94 Olympics. And then from there, it's his time in the WWF turned WWE, and then some of the stuff he dealt with addiction. It was a lot of fun. The energy of the whole thing changes once all that stuff comes into play, particularly when Steve Austin and Dwayne Johnson and a couple other people start chiming in. Ric Flair start chiming in about what they thought about Angle and what it was like working with him and this, that, and the other. So if you are any kind of fan of Kurt Angle's or just wrestling in general, it's a really good documentary that approaches things from a very, I felt, honest perspective. And again, that's on Peacock. Another film that I checked out, I'm actually in the middle of covering the Imagine Native 2023 Film Festival. First film I saw was by Erica Tremblay, and it's a film called Fancy Dance that premiered at Sundance. What's fascinating about this film, it stars Lily Gladstone and a first-time performer, Isabel DeRoy Olsen. It's a film about Lily Gladstone's character, Jax, whose sister has been missing for a couple of weeks, it seems like, and she's keeping an eye on her niece while they go looking for her mother. They live on a reservation in Oklahoma. FBI is supposed to be their contact, but no one will show up to do any sort of looking into a missing Native American or indigenous person from this reservation. And when it comes up that Jax has a history of hustling and other things, her niece is taken from her and given to Jax's estranged father, who is not indigenous. Their mother was, and he moved off the reservation when the mother died. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of issues of race, of what matters. And I couldn't help but I watched this on Friday the 20th, the same day that Killers of the Flower Moon premiered. I still haven't seen that. I couldn't make it to the screening. And it felt very strange to know that Lily Gladstone is playing a character possibly on the exact same reservation space that this other story based on a true story is now being seen by, millions of people.
Are you saying we're going to get the Lily Gladstone cinematic universe? The LGCU, I'm here for it.
Martin Scorsese's been building toward it for years, man. For years.
That sneaky mofo.
I know, right? It's a slow film that balances drama, humor, crime aspects of it. There's a lot of unspoken things that I think are unspoken very well. That it uses that negative space to make things clear where others would struggle with it. Erica has directed, Erica Tremblay, the director, who co-wrote this, has also done episodes of Reservation Dogs and a couple of other things. So she is evidently well-versed in this. And I got the impression from a Sundance interview with her, the two leads, and the co-writer, that Erica Tremblay herself is actually part of that indigenous community. So she's writing about things and making films about stories she herself is familiar with. So if you get the chance to check it out, particularly if you've seen Killers of the Flower Moon, I think it'll be a richer experience. And then I've got two more. One of them I have to mention simply because you knew I was working on this project. So but before we get to that, Larry Yang, who has directed a small handful of films, did a recent movie called Ride On with Jackie Chan. The film is about an aging stuntman who hasn't been working for quite some time. He has an estranged daughter, and when he ends up in over his head owing debts, and some people show up, some lawyers are like, hey, this horse that you make your living off of doesn't actually belong to you. You have to give it to us. He reconnects with his daughter to try and get help from her to get back on his feet to prevent his horse from being stolen or taken. I shouldn't say stolen, taken.
Mhm.
The actors that are in this are almost a who's who of other martial artists and other action performers. Anyone who's watched a Jackie Chan film, if you watch several of them, you'll start to see familiar faces because the community, particularly in Hong Kong cinema, they would work together over and over and over, whether as stunt people or as performers themselves. And this movie talks about the idea of what a stuntman is and how a stuntman works. So seeing a lot of familiar faces, listening to Jackie Chan's character talk about, hey, come be a disciple of mine, let me teach you, will raise you up, and how he gets a job because he rose them up, so they got really popular, so they're bringing him back in. But Larry Yang, when he started coming up with this concept, he also wrote the script. He wanted Jackie for this role specifically because not only does Jackie bring a gravitas and a certain sort of everybody knows his career type of thing, but they could also use his actual filmography for the character. So
Yeah.
when you're seeing snippets of the character doing stuff, you're seeing like Police Story 3 and Armor of God and,
Mhm.
Drunken Master and all these other things. And then there's references where the character themselves dresses up, either in a montage of other jobs that he's now getting, or he goes to train his daughter's boyfriend because he doesn't know martial arts. He only knows the law. So he starts training him, but he's wearing the Drunken Master 2 outfit and even does a flourish with it in a very specific way.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know that this was tailored for him, it feels very much like a tribute. And it feels like a tribute to someone in their last film. It is very much not that, but it could be, because there's definitely some moments with the action sequences where you're like, Jackie, the editing's cutting around you. I don't think this is you doing the stuff that you
Mm.
normally do. But it is now available as of this recording on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital, so you can check that out at home if you want to. Last but not least, I was on a long journey since July, and I was told by the gentleman on the other side of my monitor that I had to go to the very beginning in
Mhm.
order to understand the end.
Yes.
Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.11 thrice upon a time, ladies and gentlemen. I have seen it. I have been to the end. I have been from the beginning of Evangelion to the end of it, and now I know how to pronounce Evangelion.
There you go.
I do get tripped up with the movie title, if only because everywhere else it's listed as 3.0 plus 1.0,
Mhm.
but the version that just got released on home video from G Kids and Shout Studios is, once again, Anno could not help himself and made some additional adjustments from the version that hit theaters. So if you are an Evangelion fan, um, um, it is not what you saw in theaters if you saw it before. If you haven't
Still
seen,
mad about it. I went to a screening of something the one day it was at Concord Mills. I can't remember what the fuck movie it was, but I remember being salty.
well, having now seen it, I can understand why it was in theaters. This is a film that I also understand why. Is it You Cannot Redo, or You Are Not Alone?
You are not alone.
You Are Not Alone is 3.
I do believe so.
Why that one was 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I hated that it was 90 minutes because it felt so very rushed. But by doing all of that story there, this one was able to be over 2 hours and have it make sense. It has this quiet that it needs to have in the beginning. It has this connection you need to get. And it does some things with a story here that is so absolutely and completely fucked up, that it really messed with my head for what they had done with the whole Rebuild series, and actually made me want to go back and rewatch it. To see if there was any teasing, finding out that all of them were clones. All of the children were clones was so fucked up.
Mm.
Uh, I made me wonder if that meant that Shinji has also been a clone, or if he's been himself this whole time.
Right.
Um, I don't understand the Mari character in terms of her involvement, other than there needed to be someone to save Shinji at the end, and there was no one else to do that.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of taking what was forced upon them with budgetary restraints for the TV series and adapting that in this to represent the end of the world, the end of the universe, the end of everything. And it made everything in the story in those moments feel a lot more heavy and beautiful, and almost a strange sense of relief. So, as much as I hate to admit it to you, to Brian Martin, and to everybody else, yeah, if you're going to watch this and you haven't seen the Rebuild series and you haven't seen everything else, you have to watch the TV show from episode 1 to episode 26, then watch the 2 movies, and then begin the Rebuild series. Otherwise, while you will understand the story from beginning to end of the Rebuild series, you won't understand the significance.
Yep, we just had your best interests at heart this whole time, Douglas.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, there's a there's a specificity that comes with it all. Like, yeah, you could just watch the 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 1.0s and all that. You'll get a sense of the story and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to gain a deeper understanding of everything and get some of the whys behind it, like, oh, I understand they did this here, but they did this here because they could do this here because they couldn't do this here. It deepens the appreciation for the body of work as a whole, I think.
Having now been through it, yes, I agree completely. For those of you that don't know, the 4K edition that Shout and G Kids is releasing, it's a 4K disc singular and then 2 Blu-rays. The only way to get the 4K is in this collector's edition. It comes with a poster and a really great booklet and some other stuff. I've got a full video walkthrough on EOM if you want to check that out. But I'm a little frustrated that the rest of the Rebuild series does not appear to be easily available in physical formats. All 4 films are available on Amazon Prime to watch. That's how I watched the first 3, and then got the disc to watch this one. But if you want to watch the series and the other 2 and the first 2 movies, you can either watch them through Netflix, watch them through Prime, or, and this one I would actually recommend, if you want a really good visual experience, get the Shout Factory G Kids restoration release of the set, because they've improved the video. Now, if you just get the regular, and I did cover this when it first released, but there's different versions of the Evangelion set, and the basic one, which I had received for review, doesn't have the classic subtitles and voice work. It has the stuff that was apparently done with Netflix that was redone there. You have to get one of the more expensive sets, and they are expensive.
I found out.
You got that one?
Yeah, that's what I have. And that's what I looked at. So I was like, what's this other way more cheaper shit? That was may or may not have been a drunk purchase. But yeah,
Do you want to trade? Do you want to trade? I'll take it. Do you want to trade?
Absolutely not. And when I've been slow going my way through it. I'll watch like an episode a week or something like that. And I was like, I could just be lazy and queue up Netflix and put that episode on, or I can go get the good disc and throw it in there. And oftentimes, more than not, I'll go good disc unless I'm just feeling super extra lazy. But for the most part, yeah, good disc it up. I think that and Cowboy Bebop for me are the gold standard of anime and television form. That's what you can do with the genre in an episodic format.
I think I've only done 1 episode of Cowboy Bebop, and for whatever reason, I never went back to it.
That show is the epitome of cool. If cool was a word, like not quite in the way like Tarantino movies can be cool. This one, but Tarantino's like, this is cool, right? Look at all this cool shit I'm doing. Cowboy Bebop was just like, this is so goddamn cool, ain't it? And it's just like from the music to the way he lingers out on certain shots and scenes, to the way that Spike moves when he fights. It's just very like, this is just so damn cool. So cool. God, I love that show.
That makes me want to give it another shot. I need something to do in January. I'll
keep yourself warm by queuing that bad boy up on the old Netflix there.
If it's still there.
Still there. If not, sir, I will lend you my discs. You got anything else? Or are you good?
No, that was way more than I intended to cover.
All right.
But I felt I at least needed to mention Evangelion because I wasn't sure if I wanted to engage on that journey. And let me tell you something, folks. If you haven't and you're curious, don't mainline it like I did. I needed to get ready to do the home release review. I needed to know what I was talking about. So I was like, every free moment, that's what I was watching. Not just because it's good to have time to actually process it. It's some heavy fucking shit.
Some
And
heavy
I didn't
shit.
realize that it was heavy fucking shit when I went into it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, you get to the very end of a series and you're like, well, that final episode was a great way to end this show, or well, that was kind of a weak ending, or yeah, it was pretty okay. And you talk about it, you discuss, and you go about your day. When I got to the end of Evangelion, I just sat in my chair in the quiet for like 45 minutes. And it was like maybe midnight, 1 a.m. when I finished up, and I just sat there in the dark and just thought because it's one of those type shows. I would agree not mainlining it. That was the mistake that I made. And I think I did the show, the 26 episodes in something like 3 days. And it
Oh,
was, yeah, it was a lot at once. It was just
yeah.
go to work, get off work, watch, go to bed, go to work, get off work, watch. And by the end of it, I was like, this might have been a little too much too quick.
Yeah, that even I'm going, no, that's too much. Like at least I might watch 2 or 3 episodes in a day, and then like a day or two later, do another couple of episodes. But it was still just like
Yeah, I
not
guess
as whew.
at the time my girlfriend's like, well, what do you want? What do you want for dinner? It doesn't even matter. None of this matters. Food doesn't matter. It's all meaningless. I got three movies I'll talk about real quick fast. One, I'm ashamed to say it took me so long to get through, but as I am on my last few watches of getting my action movie list together, for the first time I finally watched El Mariachi. Man, yeah.
Which
I
good.
mean, I've owned it for like 15 years. I got it in a double pack, I think, with that and Desperado. Um,
That
and
makes
I
sense.
was, yeah, like I could watch El Mariachi or I could just watch Desperado. And that was my
So
thought
good.
process. Yeah,
So good.
for years. And I was like, okay, I really just need to sit down and watch El Mariachi. And goddamn if that movie isn't entertaining. Um, very low budget. It looks very low budget, but it looks like a man who loves movies and knows how to work the little budget that he has. Incredibly inventive, and it's old adage, which you don't have in budget, you make up for in story. There's lots of great turns and twists, lots of great little one-liners all throughout it. Some of the acting is a little bit suspect. It's pretty quick. I think it's like 80 something minutes, like 81 minutes or something like that. It's a fairly quick movie, but man, it zips, it moves. I thoroughly enjoy it, and now it deepens my appreciation for Desperado because they show flashbacks in Desperado of kind of what happened. It's almost like a bit of a Evil Dead 2 type situation where there's a
Oh,
little
it's
bit of
very
that.
much. No,
Yeah.
not a bit. It very much is. Yeah. No,
But
it was we've got a bigger budget.
we're going to
So
show
we're
you a
gonna
little bit
tell
of
the
that.
story. We're gonna sort of do it again, sort of make it a sequel. Da,
Right.
da, da, da. Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoyed it thoroughly. And it's one of those like, man, I wish this main dude had gone on to do more things. And I think he's popped up in a Rodriguez here and there, but he didn't
He was in
really.
Desperado.
Yeah, and he's in Desperado. He doesn't really break out into much. And I was like, this guy got some charm to him. Like you
Mhm.
can glom onto this character very easily. I think it's due to his charm and due to Rodriguez's writing. I really enjoy and dug the fuck out of that movie, man. So go ahead and check out El Mariachi if you never have. Don't be like me. Don't wait forever. I saw. Did you get a little something in your inbox you might have for a movie called Head Count?
Head count.
Yeah,
It
Head
sounds
Count.
familiar.
Yeah. There's a little cheap jump. Also quick, 79 minutes, man. It's about dude on a chain gang. Due to some circumstances, he manages to escape said chain gang, and you get three different timelines going on. You get the very present timeline where he is on his knees with a gun to the back of his head.
Oh, I'd wanted to see this.
Yeah. And then as he's with the gun to the back of his head. It's a six shooter, an old six shooter revolver. He's trying to think back on all the times a bullet has been used out of that gun, because whoever's behind him is doing a little bit of Russian roulette. He can't remember how many bullets are in the chamber, whether or not, does he have 100% chance of getting shot or a 16% chance of getting shot. It's very Tarantino-esque in the intercutting and the back and forth, and a little bit of quippy wordplay and a bit of a charming lead. I enjoyed this movie, man. I thought it was like, all right, yeah, it's a little 79-minute joint. I'll sit here and watch it, and it'll pass 79 minutes. I enjoyed it. Acting is much like El Mariachi. Like, the acting isn't going to be winning any Oscars anytime soon, but for the talent that the director had, directed by brothers Ben Berghardt and Jacob Berghardt, what they had, they squeezed a lot of juice out of that lime. And the story is compelling. It keeps you engaged. The intercutting between the different timelines is never muddy. It always makes sense. You always have an idea, A, of where he is, and B, they'll give you a good idea. They'll keep reminding you of how many bullets are left in the gun with each successive shot. For you True Blood fans, if y'all watch that, Sookie Stackhouse's brother Jason, Stackhouse's brother Jason makes an appearance in this as a sheriff who's trying to track him down after he escapes from the chain gang. It's got possibly my most laugh out loud moment in a movie this year, just due to just a little bit of goofiness that they put in there, a little visual sight gag that's like blink and you'll miss it, but if you do get it, then it's for me, it was hilarious. I enjoyed this movie, man. I really dug the fuck out of it. I gotta see if there's a physical release, because I would definitely cue that up every once in a while.
I think it is already slated. Give me half a second if my internet will work. Shout Factory, I think, already has it listed, though I may be wrong.
Hell yeah.
Real quick. Was not prepared. Sorry. Here it is. DVD. Currently on sale from $19.98 to $15.99 on 14th of November.
There you go. A couple weeks, man. Right on time. Go ahead and check that out if you're a fan.
They have two in stock as of right now.
Okay, so I'll be doing that after I get off. It's nowhere in similar in storytelling, but it's got at times kind of the goofiness of the tone of Free Fire, which I love and I'm a huge fan of. It kind of gives me a little bit of that tongue-in-cheek vibe at sometimes. A little bit of humor, a little bit of drama. The humor works more than the drama does, I think. But overall, a fun, quick time. It's a great, it's Wednesday, nothing's going on. Throw that movie in there. You'll be entertained.
Sometimes it's really all you need. There's nothing wrong with a film that just entertains.
Yeah. There's no deep messages here. It's just like, hey, have fun with the silly story that we thought of. And, your day will be better for you. Your ills will be cured for 79 minutes. You're not going to think about your bills or anything like that. Have a fun time. Third movie, not a fun time. Killers of the Flower Moon, man. Oh boy, is it a rough one. Directed by a little fella named Martin Scorsese.
You say that, and I don't know if you mean like little as in underknown or little as in stature.
I was wondering what your reaction to that was going to be, and it definitely paid off in droves. Directed by Marty Scorsese, the eyebrows of film. It's a lot to process. Is the best way of putting it for those who are unaware of what this is about. I'm not sure why you're listening to a film podcast if you don't know what this is about. It is about the systemic pillage of the Osage Nation by our manifest destiny ancestors out there, who want what they have for their own. I was fortunate enough to be a guest on Meeting at the Movies with Noel T. Manning himself, talking about Flower Moon, and something that I brought up there. A lot of Marty's movies over his entire filmography have been warning people about the dangers of toxic men and men who want nothing but power and money. That's a well-trod subject genre for him, and it is one he does very, very well. And this one is no exception. This one thing he does very well is warn you of the dangers of man. And if you do not keep a hold of what's yours, they will fuck you over to get it. That's the entire purpose of this movie. We get one of our best Robert De Niro's of recent years. A lot of people out there are saying that they like his performance here more than they like his performance in The Irishman. I'm not sure I agree with that. We get bumblefuck idiot Leonardo DiCaprio, which is not something you see too often. That was entertaining in and of its own right. Lily Gladstone is coming for all of the awards. Not on the screen all the time, but when she is a force to behold, and your eyes are forced to her whenever she is on that screen. I loved everything about it. It is cold. It is a cold movie. It is austere. The humor is black as black can be, and there's not a lot of it. It is it's not messaged with emotion. It's, in my opinion, it's Marty being like, hey, this happened. Look at it. Look at yourselves. And I think that that might be some of why some people have issues with this movie. I think it really forces some people to look at themselves and the atrocities that we have committed in the quote unquote name of progress for this country. He doesn't really tiptoe around it. He just puts it on a platter and says, "Here, look at it." And that's why I liked it as much as he did. He didn't really back away. I see a lot of people complaining that they had rather seen this story from the point of view of the Osage community. I think it works as is because Marty wants to specifically spotlight the evilness of the people who are trying to take everything away from the Osage Nation. You don't quite get that if you put it from their point of view. But if you got the time and if you got the bladder, this is a movie that you are going to want to check out. A lot of people throw around that word masterpiece. If it's not, it's awful fucking close. It's Marty at 80 something years old, still operating at the height of his powers, man.
Sincere question here. With Oppenheimer, aspects of it being in IMAX and everything else, I totally get where a movie like Oppenheimer one would want to see in the theater to get the scale of, explosions and things like that. With a movie like Killers of the Flower Moon, it is coming to Apple TV at some point. We know this already. It's released in theaters via Paramount, going to be screening on Apple TV. How much do you think is lost
in the translation?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I'm going to use MySpace as an argument.
Love that website.
That took me a second. Well played.
Tom, come on in here. Let's talk about
Tom would be very impressed with it. Yes. But I have a small space to view it in. I have a 43-inch TV. I'm sitting within a scope where that's big for where it needs to be. Good sound system, everything else. Just because you mentioned the bladder, that's where it came up. Do you think that there's anything lost in translation of scope?
No, I don't think so. Killers is 100% character work. That's the focus of the movie, is these shitty people and shitty people doing shitty things to well-intentioned, welcoming people. I don't think anything outside of, a great shot or two is really lost in translation. Whereas, I got the salties that you didn't see Oppenheimer in IMAX because you're missing an experience. This one,
yeah, I'm with you, by the way. I'm also salty about that.
This one I wouldn't get the salties at. You're focused on powerhouse acting, and I don't think you need to see that on any giant screen of any kind. Marty and Thelma still going hard at their brittle ages, but yeah, it's all about the character work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I feel like not I absolutely do love going to the movie theater, and I love that it's this sort of shared experience, and it's really exciting with the Eras tour, which I mentioned earlier. people are going and turning it into a pseudo concert experience. It's still that shared, it's still joyous. It's like people going to see No Way Home repeatedly and everybody getting into those things. No problem with it. But there are some movies that, while it's great to see them in theaters, can still play at home as strongly. So I was curious. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, if you, the only reason I would say you would need to go see this is for what we talked about off mic. I don't know if it was last episode before, is we don't have many left from Marty. And I want
Yeah.
to make sure that I see the last of Marty in a theatrical format the way he intended the movies to be shown. That's the only argument I would have for going to see it in a theater.
And that's a very good argument. I was having a similar conversation. I didn't get to read, I forget where it popped up, but someone had made I think it was Blue Sky. Someone had tweeted that Tired, Quentin Tarantino quits the film industry after 10 years. Wired, Martin Scorsese releases a new film at the age of 80 on a great run of 25 movies with no sign of stopping. Like it was that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to compare the two directors, they're films that I like and don't like of each of them. But with Scorsese, the impression I've gotten is that I need to finally go just make the time to watch The Wolf of Wall Street and to finally watch Silence, because I really did love The Irishman. I loved what
Mm-hmm.
it was going for, and this sort of introspection of a man who thought he was doing all the right things. He was loyal to the end. He took care of his family, but he is all alone because he has burned every fucking bridge he has due to trying, due to being a company man, among other things.
The
Um,
killer.
yeah,
Yeah.
I said among other things. He paint houses. He paints houses.
I heard you paint houses.
Yeah. So hearing that The Irishman sort of lines up in a way to Killers of the Flower Moon, but some of that was already existing in both Silence and Wolf of Wall Street, kind of makes me want to go check those out and see that rumination. Because if he is, as you pointed out, 80 years old and still feeling like he has stories to tell, then we let, in the parlance of the era, let the man cook.
Let the man cook. And I feel like with these kind of starting with Wolf of Wall Street, I can't remember what he did just before that, but kind of starting with Wolf of Wall Street, I feel like he's a man who, I mean, he is a man who knows he's towards the end of his time. He's said as much in interviews, but I think it's a man who's like, I know I only have a finite amount left and I want to get it all out of me. That's why we're getting these longer run times. I got a lot to say. Just let me say it all in this movie, and you know, I'm towards the end, and just let me get it all out of myself.
It's part of what annoys me when people only focus on his popular culture commentary and they just rail on this like old man yells at clouds type stuff. This is a guy, as I mentioned, Paramount is the one distributing this in theaters. Apple TV is the one who is also funneling it. He couldn't get this movie made. His last film was through Netflix. The studios would not. They're like, yeah, it's Martin Scorsese. Yeah, but we don't want these movies the way that you want to make them. He is going outside of the studio system to try and make these movies that he feels are important. And so he's no longer, yeah, he's been in the studio system and he's part of the studio system, but he's also outside of it because the movies he wants to make, they don't want to pay for it. They want to profit, but they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah,
And those are
yeah,
two very different ideologies.
yeah. I think
So
that
it's
just the fact that they, for what he needs for a budget for the story to tell, I think studios are gun shy. Like we're in this environment not going to make that money back. It's Martin Scorsese is a bad business investment, a great art investment.
yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing is, you know, the man has earned the right with all of the preservation he's done, with all the producing that he's done, with all the stories he's brought to people's attention, and the effect that he's had with his own work as well as just other, and you know, everything he's done behind the scenes. The man has earned the right to have a fucking opinion. he needs to be left the fuck alone about comic book movies. Not because he's right or wrong, but because who gives a shit? The man can, if he gives an opinion, to have everybody shout at him about how wrong he is. Maybe if you're going to talk about what a great filmmaker he is and all of this experience in one side, don't then out of the other side of the mouth tell the man to shut the fuck up. Like, maybe listen and consider the whole thing and not just the pull quotes that are being put in front of you. Read the whole interview, watch the whole interview, whatever else. Because listening to him speak about, particularly Killers of the Flower Moon, the man knows what he's talking about.
Right.
So
Right.
we should all be so lucky to be able to speak with such authority.
We should all be so lucky. And also, I'll tell anybody that needs to shut the fuck up to shut the fuck up if they need to, with a slap if they need it, old man.
And for anyone that wants to know what to say to Daryl if they want him to stop, just reply harder.
Yes, the safe word.
Don't say help, say harder. It's a different H word.
The safe word is please more. All right, are you ready to get into today's topic?
As we're almost out of our runtime, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am. We were talking about sports films. Or at least that's the topic of the day.
Yeah.
We had hoped to do this with a very, very special guest. Circumstances unfortunately changed that, but we are going to continuing on
sports films.
Guess we got that flat fixed. So, in talking about sports films, it's everything from Wildcats and Draft Day, Bull Durham and Necessary Roughness, Basketball, The Longest Yard, and Mean Machine, all of which are an original and 2 remakes. League of Their Own, the recently released Air, which I really do think I'm turning into a dad, like the way that they talk about dad cinema, because I started watching Air and just found myself standing there with my arms crossed watching it.
True dad. That's what we should have done. Topic is the best dad movies, because I will say until the day I die, The Hunt for Red October is the best dad movie of all time.
I haven't watched it in years, but I believe it. I was doing some laundry because I was like, it's Ben Affleck, it's about shoes. And then I just stood there. I still had so much laundry to do. I'm just standing there. Wow, it was so good. Just anyway. Stick It, Bring It On, Goon, Summer Catch, The Mighty Ducks. I would argue that The Karate Kid is a sports movie because it is building up to a tournament.
It's a martial arts tournament, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, The Natural. So just a couple of examples. Would you like to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. A movie that came out in 2000 by a director whose filmography I am not familiar with. Boaz Yakin? Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He did a little football movie called Remember the Titans.
Ooh. I've wanted to rewatch that for ages.
That's what it goes. One of those great teen movies, I feel like. I think when it comes to monologues and sports films, there's a number of good ones, but the one to beat is Any Given Sunday, especially when it comes to football. There's one that Denzel has here in this movie that's, I don't know if not monologue. It's like a couple of lines. To me, he nailed down what football is. And if you take a macro look, it's just the defense making sure the offense doesn't score. The end. But if you take a micro look at it, and this is what Denzel is talking about in the movie, it's a team of men fighting by inches to get to their goal. Every single inch is earned, and that's what he loves about the sport. That's what I love about the sport. And it just makes for a good movie. Now, yeah, it's a Disney joint. It's I think it's like a Bruckheimer produced movie, so it's got the feel goods in there. It's not all about the football. Football is the vehicle used to explore the integration of schools, of black and white schools, and that's kind of, I think, gives you the true story of the movie and how this coach is put in this impossible situation of, we didn't want you here, we don't want you coaching this team. The moment you have one loss, you are out of here. And then, based off of real events, he goes on to an unwinnable season, and throughout this unlosable season, winning streak, and throughout this teamwork dynamic, something I think sports is also good at, is these kids learn to work as a cohesive unit regardless of past backgrounds or histories or skin tones or whatever the case may be. It's a great movie. It explores the ideas of what makes football excellent. I think it's one of my favorite Will Patton movies that kind of goes under people's radar. It's just it's one, and Ryan Gosling singing "I was at Ain't No Mountain High Enough" far better than anything he did in La La Land. The end. Remember the Titans, my friend.
It's got a hell of a cast. Another one, Hayden Panettiere. It's one of her first
Yeah.
movies. It's the
Save the cheerleader.
mini
You save
coach.
the world. Yeah.
uh it's it really is. It's I saw that one in college. It was a school event. It's like, hey, we're gonna rent out a theater and people who want to go can go, kind of deal. And I found myself enamored with it. It didn't hurt that aspects of it took place in my hometown, where one of the big games took place in the Roanoke Stadium. I think by that point it may have been torn down. I forget now because it's been gone for so long if they tore it down before the shooting or after the shooting of the movie. But that stadium, there's a mountain behind it, and that's where I lived. I could hear when games would play or whatever else. It's, I mean, it's wasn't far when I say the mountain right there, but yeah, it's powerful. It's emotional. It's a kind of movie where whatever the accuracy is, all the performances convey the emotional truth.
Mm-hmm.
So whether the dialogue is accurate, whether things went down exactly as they say it went down, you feel like it is,
Right.
and it feels like it matters. It's a really good call.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Son of a bitch. My first one, only because I threatened to do this on our last show, so I have to. 1999 Sam Raimi's For the Love of the Game, because I didn't realize it was a Sam Raimi movie when I went to see it. It was another film that screened while I was in school. They were like, well, I'll go to a movie. And it was this baseball movie, and I didn't know anything about it. And for those of you that don't, Kevin Costner, Kelly Preston, John C. Reilly, Jenna Malone, Brian Cox, J.K. Simmons, and many, many more. Kevin Costner plays a pitcher for a baseball team. He is in the middle of a career best no-hitter. And the whole time that he's doing this, he's reliving in his brain all of these years previous when he had a relationship with Kelly Preston's character, and how they met by accident, how they fell in love, and how it fell apart. And through this game, we go on this journey with these characters, and sort of this exploration of what matters. Which one matters more? This game that you've been playing as a professional for so many years, and you're playing in a perfect game that you don't talk about. You don't discuss it when it's happening. You don't look at it. You don't address it. You just let things happen. Or do you let this woman who you've come to love, just let her walk out of your life? So how do you deal with that? And through the course of the runtime, it does this. I'm much more of a rom-com type person than I am a sports person, but this is a film. And again, I didn't realize it was Sam Raimi at the time. But it is a film that is a bit of a comfort. And strangely enough, I haven't watched the other one, which wasn't directed by Sam Raimi, Draft Day, which is Kevin Costner with a football team. And that's also really, really great, and you wouldn't expect it to. But For the Love of the Game is my first one.
Excellent. I would like to go back and look at the marketing to see if going into this movie that he's going to be pitching a no-hitter, because I didn't know, and it's about maybe around the halfway when I first watched it. I started like, no one's been on base this whole movie, have they? Wait a minute here. And then eventually they start dropping in those seeds like, oh, yeah, he's doing it. Back when no hitters meant something. Now we get a number of them every season, and pitchers have Tommy John surgeries all day. But yeah, back when a no hitter meant something, this movie was something special, man. Part of the baseball trilogy. of Kevin Costner's career. And the first of those, if I remember correctly, no, maybe the second one, Field of Dreams, my second one. I think
Never heard of it. What's it about?
this is, I mean, this movie works on a number of different levels. I think I've said before. I think it's number 100 in my first 100 for 100 series that I did, and then there I said that this, for me, is one of the best father son movies that exist, where the father and the son almost never interact. I think it works on that level. I think because it's a lot of him thinking about the times him and his father, a lot of mentioning my father this, my father that. I think it works as Costner's ode to what was once one of the greatest sports in the nation. And I think it works as just a really good drama about a man who is dead set on something and has to hurdle every obstacle in order to get to the thing that he knows he has to do. It works on a whole bunch of different levels, but this is I think, the greatest ode to baseball that exists. I love Field of Dreams. Everything about this movie to me is almost perfect. Just a little bit of adversity, a little bit of drama. It's some of the best James Earl Jones I think I've seen. I love his character. It's the last appearance of Burt Lancaster, I do believe, as Archibald Moonlight Graham. He is just straight smile and twinkle in his eye the entire movie throughout. There's everything about this movie works for me, and it works in a big bad way. So yeah, my second movie, Field of Dreams. If you have never seen this movie, do yourself all the favors. If you have seen it, you haven't seen it recently enough, go rewatch it again, man. I love this movie so much. Strangely enough, I don't own it.
Are you sure? Have you checked?
Well,
I'd hate for you to buy it and find out you own 3 copies.
Strangely enough, it just so happens that I keep buying duplicates accidentally. I'll see you on Wednesday with yours. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't own it, but yeah, it's a beautiful movie that respects the game of baseball.
Growing up not being a sports person, the movie did very little for me.
I thought this was an interesting topic because you're not a sports guy, and I was like, "Why does this non-sports motherfucker want to do sports shit?" But here we are.
Yeah, I do like sports movies. Several of the movies that I mentioned, I either have seen or own, including basketball. I do own basketball.
Have seen or owned, two wild different categories.
Well, yeah, but I mean, let's put it this way. I may have seen no, I do own Necessary Roughness. I've seen Major League, but I don't own Major League, that kind of thing. I have seen Field of Dreams. I do not own Field of Dreams. I can't remember if we have a copy. Crystal is a big fan of the movie, and that's actually what I was getting into, is that her household, probably more due to her father, big on baseball. So via marriage, let's go Mets.
All right, Mets fan, I will respect that. That's the working man's team for New York teams.
If you say so. You said a lot of words there, and I understood them individually. As a collective, no fucking clue.
It's a class thing. If you are a blue collar New Yorker, you are a Mets fan. If you are a New Yorker with money, upper crust, you are a Yankees fan.
Gotcha. Well, then yes, that would explain some things based on what I know about backgrounds. But yeah, so because of that, I've learned a little bit more about baseball. I've watched a couple more games, so I sort of get the sport aspect that drives Field of Dreams. It is, of course, not a film necessarily about baseball. It's about the relationships, but baseball itself has been described as a thinking man's game. It's about patience. Things don't, when they happen quickly, sometimes happen spontaneously, but it's a build. And Field of Dreams is like that too.
Yes, I would agree with all of that.
My second film is from 2000. It is not a film I saw with a group of college students. It is a film that got introduced to me probably on TNT while I was home for the summer, working at O'Charlie's and going to summer school at UNC Charlotte, taking one philosophy class. Howard Deutsch's The Replacements. This movie fucking rules. For the longest time that summer, I would come home and I'd, to unwind, I'd watch like a little bit of a movie and then turn it off and then watch the next bit of it that day. And The Replacements was a perfect version of that because it's about 2 hours long. For those of you that don't know, it's about a football team, and I think Washington D.C. is where it's set, and a a strike basically happens, and so they bring in scabs to play football for the for old coach gets kicked out, new coach gets brought in, type of thing. And it's a coach that's worked with him before, and he wants to bring in some folks, and they're all unique individuals. It's Keanu Reeves and Orlando Jones, Faison Love, John Favreau, Reese Ifans. I forgot Keith David was in this. Holy
Keith
shit.
David.
I forgot he was in this. There's a couple of faces on the team and everything else, and it's about them coming together as a team, figuring their shit out, and then will they, won't they win the championship? Will they, won't they take it all? And there's a number of really wonderful lessons. There's bunch of wonderful one-liners that Crystal and I to this day still quote to each other when describing, those of you that have seen the movie and remember it well, when asking my wife for help in changing our youngest child either in a diaper or into new clothes. If I don't describe him as a feral cat, I describe him as being wiry. Like, he's wiry. Among other things, we can't listen to I Will Survive the same way. I mean, there's all of these little things about this movie that are just so wonderful and sweet and hilarious. And it doesn't have to be as good as it is, but the story is well told, the pacing's great, the football is entertaining. And what's neat is that the football coordinators that worked with them, that worked with the players, that worked with the actors to be convincing, they all play the opposing coaches.
Oh, okay.
So they get a little bit of shine in a couple of moments. There's some really great one-liners from them too. But it is a bit of a rom-com with a sports vehicle for
Right.
it, and it plays really, really well. It is still entertaining. I watched it within the last year or two, and it's still just fucking hilarious and charming and wonderful. So, if from 2000, The Replacements.
Yeah, that's one I haven't seen all the way through. Like you, apparently. I catch or caught back in the day, not too much.
Mhm.
15 minutes here, and then it's coming at a commercial break as I'm scrolling through. And I'm just gonna sit down and watch 20 minutes of this. So I've seen 90% of it all out of order. Like a bad fever dream. I need to sit down and check it out from beginning to end. I
To me,
remember
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember at the time being salty, like this is Keanu's first movie after The Matrix. And
Yeah.
and I was like, what the fuck is he doing not making The Matrix 2? What is this bullshit? And boycotted it on that general principle.
Oh no, it's so good. It's
Never
so
got
good.
back to actually watching it. I will put that on my to watch list now, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, it's highly recommended. And maybe it's because I did grow up watching Necessary Roughness, and while there are jokes in that movie that don't play anymore,
Mm-hmm.
either because just the times have changed, or it's really weird to describe a 30-year-old going back to college as the old man and like making him out to be just like this Scott Bakula is this like super old cruddy, what the fuck are you doing here
Mm-hmm.
type of dude. I get it as a football player. There's a certain age you reach where having played for a certain number of years, I totally get that. Totally get that. This ain't that.
Yeah,
But
right.
it has that kind of ridiculousness that this film does. And it leans into the humor very, very well without losing any of its sincerity or heart.
Right on, right on. There you go. Boom. My final movie comes from 2019, a movie that I have talked about a number of times right here on this show, directed by our boy Steve Soderbergh, man. High Flying Bird, the basketball joint. For those who don't know, this is a Netflix joint, one that Soderbergh knocked out in it seems like about 45 minutes of filming on an iPhone. It is 90 minutes about an NBA lockout in which there is an agent who is hustling as hard as he can behind the scenes to loosen up everything he needs to loosen up in order to get the players and agents and managers and owners all on the same page and talking again, because he loves the sport of basketball so much that he is missing it immensely, doing everything he can to make sure. And at the same time, attempting to mentor his young, going to be star player, a rookie, and having him navigate through life, not to make certain dumb decisions that he is leaning towards or attempting to make to try to keep him on the straight and narrow so he can help enhance the game of basketball. I was already a fan of Andre Holland after Moonlight, which was 17, somewhere around there, I think 17, 18. And then this comes out in 2019. And I was like, this is my guy. Everything Andre Holland does in this movie, I think, is gold. He's fast talking, he's fast thinking, he's always go, 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 go. This needs to happen, this needs to happen. I'm only going to tell you a little half truth there. I'm just going to make a little appearance over here. Zazie Beetz is in this movie. Bill Duke is in this movie, as well as the owner of like a youth gym that he makes an appearance at. It's just great, man. It's just a fun, quick moving. Soderbergh knows how to make things quick and punchy. He's a great eye for pacing and editing in his movies. That's kind of why they're as entertaining as they are.
Yeah.
High Flying Bird is no exception, about a man who's just desperately trying to get this lockout eased up to get players back on the court. I love it.
You challenged me to watch that, and it's a film that I had trouble connecting with because, again, certain sports I have less awareness of. I wrestled in high school, so watching, for instance, the first 50 minutes of Angle, I may not remember all the names or how to do them if you asked me to, but I'm watching him wrestle and going, oh, it's this, and you do this, and he did a move, and I was like, you're rolling across your back, are you stupid? But like, this is a different level of wrestling, so who the fuck am I to judge how he's doing shit? But I knew that I did. Soccer, I played soccer, so I get some of that stuff. But basketball, I'm 5'5", 5'6" Jewish kid. You put me on a basketball court, it's entertainment. It's fucking me embarrassing myself the whole time. Brick, 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 miss, brick. So I had trouble connecting with it because I didn't understand the technical aspects of stuff that it's building off from. But you're absolutely right about the performances. You're absolutely right about the energy and how engaging it is. So I may not have understood everything, but I was still into it.
Right on.
Still absolutely into it.
Right on. Yeah. You get maybe 5 seconds of actual basketball playing in this movie. This is a movie about a man hustling. And that's what I enjoy. A man hustling, trying to get to his goals.
It's funny you say that because last year, I think it was, and friend of the show, Joel Winstead, was talking up at a bunch, quite a bit. Adam Sandler's Hustle. If you did, that is another great sports film that is about more than just sports. But you talk about, as soon as you said Hustle, I was like, right, because that one was actually really good too. So if you haven't checked out that, there's another Netflix original, High Flying Birds and Hustle.
There's a double feature for you.
There you go.
There you go. Your final, sir.
Oh yes. My last one is a bit of a cheat, but it was going to be a cheat until you agreed with me that building towards a competition or some sort of, let's call it, battle qualifies as sport. Okay. So I decided to go with, because I got reminded of it recently, and when it comes to sports movies, and actually a really great one that came out this year was First Slam Dunk, an animated adaptation of a manga. And what an incredible, you just get wrapped up in the game. I was sitting in my office being like, fuck yeah, when something happened. That's how excited I got. And a good sports film will do that to you, where you get invested in what's happening so that if there's a success that they've been working towards, you sort of erupt with them. And I was reminded of this. My music was on shuffle and this popped up, and it's a musical moment from this particular film, a film I imagine you've seen despite your feelings on musicals, Curtis Hansen's 2002 film, the Oscar-winning 8 Mile.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Because when Eminem goes up against Anthony Mackie in that rap battle at the end of the movie and turns everything fucking upside down and just explodes into this personality where he goes from rabbit into the performer that we've seen Marshall Mathers be. It is explosive. It is powerful. It is hard not to get wrapped up in it. That there are plenty of films that I love for a number of different reasons, but there's that one scene that makes everything that you've watched, the entire journey leading up to it, a lot of the heartbreak that happens between Eminem and the relationship with the Brittany Murphy character, or the stuff going on with his mom, played by Kim Basinger. It's another semi-autobiographical, if not fully autobiographical, film about Eminem's life and before he became, as we know him, Eminem. But you get to that sequence, and it is just the rap battle itself. Nobody's expecting him at this point in the film to have any kind of backbone, to have anything to say. And then he just rips everyone to shreds, up to the point where the big moment going up against Anthony Mackie's Papa Doc, he goes, you know what? I know everything this man's going to say about me. And he rips himself apart to go, you have no ammunition here. I'm going to take it all away from you. And then when he follows it up with, but I know something about you, and he starts listing all of these things about Clarence and how he's got two great parents and all of these. It's so beautiful and so well executed that in terms of cinematic moments, this is that home run. This is the get it into the end zone. This is the extra time, scored the point, fucking destroyed the opposition. And it's just executed so well. So when it came up, I was like, this got to be on my list. And going in chronological order, 2002 is much more recent than 1999. So that's why I'm ending on 8 Mile.
That is a choice that you made.
It is a choice that I've made. But earlier you said that building up to competitions counts as sport, just like the Karate Kid. That's what he's doing this whole time. He's building up to this new rap battle.
I would say every sport is a competition. Not every competition is a sport. But I agree with Karate Kid because they are building to a physical confrontation, which is what.
So it has to be physical. So are you saying chess isn't a sport?
Yes, I've always said chess isn't a sport. Golf isn't a sport. Those are skills, not sports.
I would poker. These are sports.
Those are skills, I think. In my opinion, this is an opinion I've long since held, and I would put the art of rapping is definitely a skill, not a sport. But
maybe during the holidays, but the rest of the year.
During the rest of the year, it's definitely a skill during the holidays, a skill that I've never possessed. The other one I do from time to time. But yeah, it's all in how you want to delineate the word sport. So I'm not no knocks here.
I'm just using the Daryl. I'm gonna be slightly along the topic, but maybe.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you have it. There's your Douglas impersonation of Daryl for this episode.
Yeah, you sound exactly like that. If you played that recording to any family member without context, they'd go, "It sounds just like you."
Daryl, what kind of nonsense you talking? No challenges for this episode, and we are already running a little bit longer than we normally do. It's time to wind this bad boy on down, sir. But before we do that, Doug, you got anything else you want to hit the peoples to before you close this out?
Just to say that there are some really exciting stuff coming out that I know I personally am looking forward to see as we get closer to the end of the year. Film you have already said on this very show you are highly anticipating seeing, a movie I know you haven't watched yet. Three Musketeers, D'Artagnan Part 1 is coming out theaters and digital December 8th officially. And be proud to know I made contact. I will be covering that. I have made contact for It's a Wonderful Knife, which I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Right on.
I bet you're excited because The Killer, the new Fincher movie, is coming out.
I'm
We are
skipping class for
knocking
that.
on all the woods that nothing happens, and Wednesday we get to go to the movie.
Yeah.
But there's still so many great artiste films, and then just some great fucking cinema. Because like Maestro's coming out. That's artiste. That's going for the awards, and then there's the entertaining shit. So there's so many great and everything in between still coming out. I'm still excited. I am still looking forward to what's to come. And what's weird is I'm one of those people that at this point I'm like, yay, FYC, let's see all these cool movies. But I'm like, yeah, but the Three Musketeers is coming out. Put right here, right in my veins. Give that shit to me.
Yes, a movie I've definitely not seen. I am looking forward to watching this
Yes.
flick, as that is one of my favorite novels of all time, and I adore each and every adaptation of it. It's interesting to actually watch a French joint from a French perspective, and not a bunch of Brits acting like French people, or Charlie Sheen and Chris O'Donnell. So it's gonna be good.
That movie rules.
It is fun. I will say that it's
It
definitely
is
fun.
so much fun.
It has a lot of stiff competition, this new one, to see if it can dethrone the 1970s version with Michael York and Oliver Reed. Yes, so that's top of the heat for me. So we'll see what this is all about. But yeah, plenty of good shit left out there for the rest of the year. FYC is looming upon us. You are already in ankles deep, so it's time to be watching a whole lot of stuff. So more movies and suggestions to come right on the Cinema Man, with the
That's right.
last couple of episodes on the road to 100, man. Until then, we'll be back in a couple of
Oh,
weeks.
and in fact, we should have a special guest with us for the next one. I'm not going to say who in case something happens, like we get a Marvel screening or another secret special something requires us to move it. Like we've already rescheduled it once, so knocking on the wood that we don't have to do it. But hoping we get to, because it'll be the first recording of November. Noirvember.
Noirvember. You know your boy likes noir. So that's it, man, for this episode of Cinema. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one.
Watch more movies.